I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands.
Welcome to Build an Iconic Life podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whitehead, and this podcast is dedicated to help you build a life with zero regrets by focusing on how you have everything you need to stand up, stand out, and live life on your terms. Let's dive right in. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Build an Iconic Life. I'm actually here with a really good friend of mine, Scott Reib, and we met several years ago. He was a speaker, I was a speaker at an event, and absolutely love what he shares. I love the place from which he shares it. Scott, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show. It's exciting to see you in your iconic element.
Well, so something I have not shared 100%, although I wrote it in my book, and I just know that you have something to share about this, just to hit a flavor. So when I was 22 years old, I was at an Amway event. I don't even know if Amway still exists. They do, because Caitlin's husband he worked at the manufacturing facility. He just quit when they moved down to Texas.
That's right.
But, you know, I was young, 22-year-old, thinking about becoming wealthy. And they said this multi-level marketing thing worked, and they started drawing these circles, and it just, like, I saw the mission. I saw the vision. I was like, it's great. What I didn't realize is Amway had been around for about 30 years. And in North Carolina specifically, everyone had heard about it at least 8 times, been invited to somebody's house and kind of bait and switched. So I never made any money at Amway, but I'm grateful for 3 things. Number one, I was grateful to meet people that had a bigger dream than I did. Number 2, I was really, really grateful for the audiobooks that were like the ongoing motivation. I think we paid $7 a month, and you got 2 cassette tapes, and they were people inside of the organization telling stories, really just making you move along. And I'm going down the road, getting all these no's from people, building a small business that I had no business doing. Like I decided to get into remodeling, and it's like, I think I'd help Dad build a deck. You know, that's it. Yeah. And so I was grateful for the continued motivation, because it got me into personal development in such a level that I've never stopped. And thirdly, I'm grateful for this. So we went to a convention in Greensboro, North Carolina. It was a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And Friday and Saturday, they're displaying all the people making money. They're displaying cars. They're giving you, people are standing up and giving these amazing talks, which is why they grew such big businesses, because they were good at talking. And they said, and I even got a 3-piece suit. They had tailors there. Like, they dressed me up. So on the 3rd day, they said, whatever you do, make sure that you show up for the 3rd day, because we're going to really talk to you about how the money is made, how you become wealthy. So I remember the suit was done Saturday night. I was so happy. I put that suit on, and I showed up, and I was excited. Again, a 22-year-old. It was an altar call. And so this very powerful man, Scott, got up on stage, and he started telling his story of how he accepted Christ into his life. Yep. And I had been I was raised in Virginia, so there was Southern Baptist influence on me. Yep. There was a little bit of Methodist influence on me. There was Episcopalian influence. I was actually an acolyte growing up. I was baptized at 12 years old, got a little necklace for my grandmother and all sorts of stuff. But I realized that, and I had a relationship with God my whole life, but I realized that there was something missing inside of me. And when that powerful man got up there and started sharing vulnerably and honestly, I don't know, something broke inside of me, man. And I was the first one that ran up to the stage out of 25,000 people. I was crying like a baby, man. Like, because I don't even know why the overcome of emotion. So, and I wrote about this in my book. Long story short, he said, "You're going to be okay, young man. You're going to be okay. You're going to be just fine." So the whole thing finished. And Scott, I ran outside, and I had a little red Ford Escort at the time. And I ran outside in the 3-piece suit, opened the driver's side door so that nobody could see me. And I knelt down on my knee, and I said, "God, I know I just made an emotional decision, and that I'm going to let go of you. I just pray that you never let go of me." Scott, it was the most profound thing that I've ever said in my life. I'm now 51 years old this month. My relationship with God, my salvation is such not a question anymore, that what I'm compelled to do is have more compassion, love, empathy, and invite more people to understand, like a little seedling that I'm giving them. It's not my job to convert anybody. It's not my job to tell them what or who they should believe in. I respect other people of other religions. It's nothing about that. It's my job to take that little flame, which is what that's really all about, that spark of divinity that's in each one of us, and just share that fruit. And that transcends business to me, because business is going to end for me at some point. You know, I'm not going to make it out of here alive. But that relationship has been the basis of everything good and fruitful in my life. And I just want to know, before we get into the Shatterproof business solution side of things, because I know you're willing to speak about it. First of all, what do you think, and what does that make you think about, and what would you like to share?
Well, that reminds me of my life. I mean, when I was 23 years old, I was sitting in an Amway convention in Wichita Falls in the middle of a snowstorm.
For real?
Oh yeah, watching Dexter Yeager up on the stage telling everyone how they could make a lot of money, and being inspired, and then having the spiritual night. And I also didn't make any money, because I found out that, well, everyone had already seen the circles, and no one wanted to see them from a 22-year-old guy. So it was frustrating to see that. But then, like you said, the systems with the tapes that we're that dates this obviously, but we had cassette tapes in our cars. We're listening to these guys who had been successful and listening about their business journey, but they always would talk about the personal journey and the spiritual journey. And like in my book, if you're going to build a business, you don't want to build it on sand. You want to build it on a rock. Like, if you build anything, it has to have that solid foundation. And for me, that solid foundation is Jesus. And so I've worked to build my life, my marriage, and now my businesses on that rock. And it makes all the difference, because I mean, it's not if problems are going to come, if storms are going to come. It's just when. And if you don't have that mooring to lean on, I don't know how you make it. I really don't. And he's so faithful to be there to take care of me. I provide for my family, but it's not my responsibility. God is my provider. God gives me my opportunity. God gives me divine appointments to meet people like you, people like Tom Ziegler, who have changed the trajectory of my life and put me in front of people at the right time to say the right thing to help them. Because it's really all about how many people we can help along the way to get what they want. Zig said it a lot better than that, but it's like, it's not about me building a business for me. It's about me helping people, which in turn does help me build a business and pay for things and have a life that's fun. But it all comes back to, I'm inspired to do that, like you are, by my relationship with God. And I think that that's what makes us a little different, because there's guys out here doing podcasts and speaking on stages that it's all about them. They're doing it for the glory, for their ego. It's all about them. If you happen to get benefit from it, that's just on the side. They don't really care. But the people that you and I are running with, we're trying to help people. And to do that, we have to build podcasts, and we have to have a brand that resonates. And so it all comes back around to business, but it's all about that relationship we have with God. And that's what's inspiring us to go out there and plant these seeds of greatness.
That's very, very well said. I didn't know that you had the same Amway experience. That's a small world.
Mm-hmm.
It is a big difference. I invested a lot of money into Iconic, and I felt like God was asking me to do it, and it was doing it at a time when my income went down from 6 figures a month to almost zero. And the way that has propelled me to, like, the stress hit hard, and I kept doing it, and we weren't getting a result from Iconic. And so that also came back into our household, that energy that I was bringing. But it allowed Robin and I to start really having strong conversations about, what's smart to do, what's not smart to do, where our faith is really placed. And if so, how are you acting? Chris, you say you believe, but then your actions and your words and your energy. And it was a real opportunity for me to grow to a new level. And so when you say it's like, it's not if the problems will come, it's when they're going to come. That's been my whole life, is experiencing a problem.
Yeah.
And then learning how not to be a victim in it and finding a way to overcome it. And my relationship with God, I'm in agreement with you. Like, I didn't do it well at all when I tried to do it by myself, like not at all. And when I started worrying about what was actually to worry about, which was my actions and my attitude, everything else is I don't have any control over. And that's what allowed me to really find peace in my relationship with not just God, but with everyone, because it's none of my business what you think about me. I'm not worried about you screwing me over. I'm not worried about getting in trouble, because I have smart friends that I can call up and say, Scott, I got this thing going on in my business. You're like, okay, here's what you do, blah, 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 because you're a lawyer. And this idea of giving value and then believing in reciprocity from it versus asking for you to get something first and then maybe you give something back, is not only the proper way to live, it's the only way that I know that you actually grow something that's scalable, whether it's a business or it's our civilization, for goodness sakes, because it's certainly being tested right now.
Sure.
When I first met you, though, you got up on stage and here's this lawyer guy talking about shatterproofing your business. And by the way, it was an amazing PowerPoint presentation. Like, you were on point. And you started talking about all the things that every business owner doesn't do, that they build this huge empire, but because they didn't put these little things in place early, that would have been easy to put in place early on, that everything that you do for maybe 20 or 30 years can just get wiped away in a moment's notice.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some of those things that might like inspire some people that are listening right now to consider?
Yeah, you bet. The shatterproofing is all about building a business and a life that will bend and not break. I believe that small businesses are the best way to achieve your life goals and dreams. And a small business comes with a windshield, and that windshield is for vision and for protection. It's made of layers of glass that are made in a way that they won't shatter. It'll not come through and hit you in the face. Whatever rock hits it, it marks it. You can fix it later. And so the way you do that from a business standpoint is the first step is that you want to have that solid legal foundation. You want to have the right entity structure. And so if you're out there listening to us and you're running as a DBA, stop, fix that. Get an LLC or a corporation. It's not hard to do. It's not even expensive, but it makes you legitimate and it gives a separation between you and your business, because otherwise you are the business. Anything you do can come home and take the hard-earned assets that you've gained with this business. So step one of being shatterproof is form that entity. Step two is assemble a team of key advisors. Now, these advisors, you can start with a lawyer. It's super important. That's what I do. But you also need to have an accountant, because, hey, the way we keep score in business is money. Like it or not, it's about how much money your business makes, how much of it you can keep. And we want to pay as little as possible to the government, but we want to make sure we're paying the right amount. And the way you do that is to have a smart CPA that has a relationship with you in your business, not one that you're just sending paper to, but that you're talking to, and that they're trying to help you with strategies and understand the way money works and how cash flow works and how to structure that the best way for what you're doing. The third would be you want to have a banker. Now, not a bank. There's a bank on every corner. You want a banker that's on speed dial, right? I mean, it's on there. You pull out your phone, you can tell Siri to call them, and they will call them, and you can talk about whatever banking problem you might have. I mean, if you've been in business long enough, you've had a banking problem. I can remember in the early days of the Reib Law firm that there were times where I needed to write a check and I didn't have the money, but if I wrote the check, I was going to have money the next day. Like, I had an opportunity, but I had to buy this equipment to do it. And I could call the banker and tell them what was going on. And because I had a relationship, because I'd stopped in and had coffee and donuts along the way, they were like, no problem. We know you're good for it. I'll memo post the check. It'll be good. And they take care of you, and they'll give you a line of credit so you can do things. But if you don't have that relationship, none of that's going to happen. It's all about the relationship. Then you need to have an insurance person would be part of that team. Might want to do an independent broker, someone that can look at the whole world of insurance, but they need to examine your situation and say, here's all the coverages that are possible. Here's how you should prioritize them. Now you pick which ones you can do based on your budget, and then we'll keep adding to them as your business grows and you have more available cash in your budget. But that's how you protect yourself, is by having that relationship with that insurance person. And then last but not least, you need to have a coach. Chris and I are both coaches, and we'd love to work with you. But if it's not us, you need someone. And the coach for me, they do two things. They help you, they kind of give you a map. Like, you can tell them what you want to achieve and they can give you a map to get there. And then two, they hold you accountable. Because sometimes you need a cheerleader and sometimes you need a butt kicker. And you need that coach that will make you do what you want to do. If you don't have them, I'm not saying you can't be successful, but it will be much slower and much more painful. But if you find someone that can see from that different perspective, has already been down the journey, and can help you avoid some of the problems and get where you're going faster, I don't know why you wouldn't do it. And I'm always working with a coach on some part of my business. And so that would be just the first two parts of shatterproofing your business. The next one would be, I'm gonna kind of skip. Let's talk about branding. You've got to own your brand. So many people have created these really solid brands, and a brand is everything that people think about your business when you're not there. It's not just your logo, but it is the name of your business included in it. And if you haven't trademarked that and you build a business and you get to 10 years and you suddenly get a cease and desist letter from someone saying that you're using their brand and that you have 30 days to change, or we're suing you in trademark federal court, that's one of those moments where you really pucker, and it's like, oh, what have I done? Now I've got to completely change everything I've done. I have 10 years of momentum. I've got all this money spent on wrapping all my vehicles, on all my websites, and all that. You got to change it all overnight, all because you put your ladder on the wrong building. You got to the top and it wasn't yours. So do some of these things early. The earlier you can, the better. Now, if you are 10 years down the road, it's okay. Go back and fix it now, though. The sooner you fix it, the better. But if you don't do some of these things, and it's Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth, is kind of what started me down my personal journey of becoming a better business person. And he says that most of us are technicians that had this entrepreneurial seizure. And he's proven to be right. I see it over and over again. And it's just, we skip these steps because we're excited about building this business that we think we can do better than our boss used to. And you skip over these basic steps, sometimes because we just don't know about them. And so part of my mission is making sure that everyone knows that there's these basic steps that you're supposed to do. And then you can be much more prepared when these problems come that we've talked about, because again, life is problems, and you're going to live through some, you're going to overcome some, but they're going to be there. And so we want you to have a business that can survive in those things and thrive through
them. So I was building this cool company called Granite State Contracting, and put 6 figures into marketing. Website was rolling, phone was ringing off the hook. I had geo fencing around my area. I was in the 3-pack. So if you typed in bathroom remodeler in certain zip codes, I would be inside of the ad copy, like one of the first on the first page. It was beautiful, man. Every once in a while I'd get a call and they would say, "Is Charlie there?" And I would say, "No, Charlie, I don't have a Charlie that works for me." They say, "Okay, thanks." I said, "Well, who are you looking for?" And I said, "Well, a remodeling company, blah, blah, blah. I can help you out." That's what I do. And they would go, "Okay." And I'd sell the job every once in a while. So one day, my assistant goes and brings in the mail, and there's a letter in there from a law firm. And it's 1 page, and I open it up and I'm reading, and it's like, "You must cease and desist." The state approved the name. The IRS gave me an EIN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me go research this guy. So it was Granite State General Contractors.
Yeah.
He'd been around since 2002. My business had gone from 2015 to 2017 to 7 figures because I was using all these marketing strategies that work. So I made my first introduction to my business lawyer now. He was 20 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
And he was such a cool guy. He goes, yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of a thing that's been going around. It makes the lawyers some money, but here's the problem. He's been in business since 2002. You've been 2015. The names are pretty close to one another. We can fight it if you want to. My question is, how much money do you have to fight it?
That's right.
And I said, I don't know. He goes, Chris, it would be better for you just to change the name. So we are now New England Custom Remodeling. But bro, I went through everything you talked about. I did everything right. I saw his trucks on the road. Yeah, he's been around, but he has no marketing, no nothing. He's a small general contractor, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, God bless him. But I didn't do anything wrong. The people were just calling me, but I think what ended up happening is people started calling him thinking it was me, and that got him wind to it. I think for $400, he got his lawyer to erase over 6 figures worth in 2 years of my effort. And that was called Chris growing up a little bit. So everything that you're talking about is absolutely the Bible when it comes to making sure that you have a business, because as you get bigger, when you're a small fish, people don't worry about you. But as you start growing something and having something substantial, there are many reasons why people can come after you. And if you haven't protected your backside, you really could be in a tough spot. And that's one of the things that I was grateful about. You know, I'm coming in talking about leadership at the event that you come in and you're talking about, well, this is exactly how you are able to remain one. I was like, I'm not sure whether the chicken or the egg comes first, but it's absolutely important. And that's talk about the accountant, about the lawyer, about the insurance people, about the banker. One tip that I got from a coach, he was doing like 25 million a year at the time. And he said, Chris, one thing I never give up to anyone is I drive my checks to the bank. I make sure that I know that they know that who I am, because you never know. And that's come in so handy on several occasions when, you know, hey, can I just send you a photo of this $50,000 check? I don't have time to drive it in, but I need it in. And they even, because our accounts were so good for so long and they knew me, they would even post date that check as long as it came in by 3 o'clock on the same day. And these are the things that you're right. You're so enthusiastic to just go get this thing done and most of us have not gone to business school, by the way. Yeah. So we don't know the first thing about it. And so I'm grateful that you're willing to teach this to people. Now, you have this online too, don't you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not available to everyone. But if you're an Access member, then you've got access to all of my training.
And then you're also starting to, you mentioned a mastermind that you're going to be creating.
Yeah, so we created Shatterproof Solutions, which is a coaching consulting company. We do events. We've got a 3-day retreat coming up in Atlanta where we're going to study the leadership of Kathy, and then we'll actually mastermind, and we're limiting it to 20 people because I want it to be intimate. I want people to feel comfortable, and we're going to work on some of the business problems that are in that room together and solve some big problems, and then build community. And we'll be launching from there into a mastermind group where, like I like to say, that we're going to travel the world and build kingdom businesses together, because everyone needs to be a part of a tribe, and you need to be like-minded, that we're all trying to do kind of the same thing in different industries. And I think people are hungry for that and need it. And so we're going to provide that. It's not really a law firm thing, right? So we had to create a different company for it. That's where we do the book and the podcast. And we've already done one event. It was super, super fun, and met some great people. And they're now part of the Shatterproof Room, which is our bi-weekly online coaching group. And it's changing the world one business at a time.
What do you talk about on your bi-weekly group? What subjects?
We talk about leadership stuff for sure. And sometimes, like, it's a small group, right? So it's the last call we did, one of the guys had an opportunity. I just kind of opened it up to the floor, like, hey, what kind of problems are you guys dealing with? And this guy has an opportunity 3 years out to where he could go full-time in mission work, in Jamaica. But to do that, he'd have to have his business turnkey. And so he's like, "What?" He's like, I really feel like God wants me to do that, but I have no idea what I would have to do with my business. So we started reverse engineering the problem and working back to give him some action steps to where he could start building that business a little differently and accelerating it to where in 3 years he and his family can move to Jamaica and he'll have a team in place to run his company and nothing will change. And so we got to spend an hour working on his business. It was super fun because we had some really high level people in the room. So it wasn't just me that were able to pour into him and give him some action steps. And so at the end, and you and I both agree it's all about taking action. We can fill our heads with all kinds of knowledge, but we were able to give him some action steps to take. I'm looking forward to hearing from him on the next call to see how much progress he's made.
Dude, it's so awesome. I remember being a young entrepreneur. The internet was still like 9600 baud.
Yeah.
So there was certainly no video going on.
No.
But I didn't know who to connect to. I didn't, being in the trades, especially, you either become the competition or you're a subcontractor.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people that are wise in the trades are not too interested in you becoming their competition. So they're not going to educate you very much on how to do that.
Right.
And so most of the things that I learned were by trial and error. And, I'd had the experience in Amway and I understood the like-minded, but I didn't know where to go find them as an independent business owner. Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more, like having a tribe of like-minded people, similar core values. But the Rolodex of you have a problem, I've got a guy or a gal right here that has a solution for you. Mm-hmm. That is an invaluable asset to be able to call someone up or to get on a coaching call and say, here's my problem. And somebody says, let's walk step by step through making this better. I promise you, whatever money you spend, you more than save in the time and the effort that it takes for you to go try to figure that stuff out the quote unquote cheap way. So I appreciate you doing it, man. If Scott, we're going to end, but if people wanted to find you and have a conversation with you, what's the best way for them to do it?
Best way is to go to reiblaw.com, REIBLAW.com/iconic. I spell iconic. And we'll have a special page just for this show. And it will have a way for you to communicate with me. You can actually schedule a 20-minute, what I call laser legal coaching session where I'll ask you questions, get a good idea of what's going on with your business, and then tell you what I think. And you can take that and act on it. You can ask me for help, no obligation. And then you'll also be able to download a sneak peek of part of my book, The Shatterproof Entrepreneur, and then decide if you want to actually go buy it on Amazon. And then you can always find me on Instagram at @TheScottReib. We're always putting out clips of legal and business tactics and strategies. And that's a great place to interact with us as well.
Brother, I appreciate you taking time to come on the show, have a conversation with me and the audience. It's good to catch up with you again. It's been a while.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome, man. We'll make sure that we have you back on. And you have any plans on getting another book out?
I've got a couple of ideas, but probably we're a year away from me working on those. But we've got some outlines working. This year's goal was get the book launched and the podcast launched. And then next year we're going to try to grow that thing. So we're probably a year away from it, but we definitely have some things in the works.
So that's one thing you didn't mention. If people want to check out your podcast, what's the name of the podcast?
The Shatterproof Entrepreneur.
You can't screw that up. Hey, everybody, take a listen to Scott. I promise you, the information that he gives is distilled. It is straightforward. And because he's a lawyer, he's not going to tell you anything that's not the truth because he's not trying to get himself in trouble. And it's really, really, really quality packed information. So definitely check him out. Scott, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Everybody, we'll see you in the trenches. Take care.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
Hey, friend. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to catch future casts. If you really enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it so others can benefit from it as well. I'll see you in the trenches.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.